and said, hey, I got a white paper on how we can make crime better. Where's the chief? Do you remember saying that to me? And I'll never forget, and I said, we might already have the answers that we need right here under our nose. Sheriff Mike Bonham, friend of mine, Osage County Sheriff's done a great job. Rick Smith, retired Kansas City Police Chief, also has served our state and citizens of Kansas City very well. And then Brad Lemon with the Kansas City Fraternal Order Police. We're happy to have Brad on board. And then Sergeant Donnie Walters, he's with the Ethical Society of Police. And certainly we want to make sure that we include all facets of law enforcement as we go forward. And so, Donnie, we're grateful that you would be here with us today as well. I said at the beginning of session that public safety was going to be our priority. I'm really proud of the folks in this building who worked hard to get this to our desk at a big lift, what we call in this building a big lift, a bill that's of this importance and impact so soon in the session. And I think that speaks volumes, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, rural, or urban. You understand how important community safety is to our state. This is all part of our Safer Missouri plan, which, as you know, has multiple pieces to it, but this is a cornerstone piece, including the executive orders we signed on day one. And as I can't say enough, in Missouri, we want it easier to be a cop than a criminal. And we think the sections in this bill will help us do this. I know that today a big piece of the bill is the St. Louis piece. So we will have 30 days to appoint a transition director after the bill signing today, and then I believe it's 90 days to assemble that 5-person board and the 6th ex officio member that will be on there. Obviously, the mayor will be one of those 5, absolutely. But there's 25 provisions in this bill altogether, and that's what a lot of people miss. They talk a lot about the St. Louis piece, but the reality is there's 24 other pieces that are incredibly important to law enforcement and to communities all across our state, and you'll hear about a few pieces of those from the folks behind me. I really want to thank the people of the Metropolitan Police Department in St. Louis, including Chief Tracy. And I have a message for them. Their job today, after this bill signs, is the same as it was yesterday. Nothing changes. They want to continue to work with their command staff and the folks within the police department to continue to keep Missouri's, St. Louis City's streets safe. And that's what they do a great job doing, and we want to encourage them to do it. We believe that this bill gives them a few more tools to continue to could do that. So nothing changes in what they're able to do to protect the citizens, and I have a lot of gratitude for what we're going through. I did want to mention that Officer Speece, as you recall, on St. Patrick's Day was hit, a St. Louis City policeman on the side of the road in a tragic incident. Unfortunately lost part of his leg, but he's hopefully getting out of the hospital today, I think. Is that right, Jay? And Donnie, thank you. Actually, Officer Speece was involved in a shooting just a few years ago along with his partner. And through St. Louis connections, I know a few of those folks. So we're happy that he's recovering, and I did want to mention his sacrifice. As many of you know, I'm born and raised in St. Louis City, and I've had a lot of people say, well, what do you know about city policemen? And I just want to make sure people in this room understand what I know about city policemen. My father, who I never met, but before I met him, he was a cop. His beat partner was Dave Sinclair, the guy who raised me. My uncle Jake was chief of police of St. Louis City. His son Steve, my cousin Steve, was a city policeman. My godfather, Joe Murphy, is a city policeman. Dave's dad, Grandpa John, we called him, was a city detective. They called him Big Red. So my family and my upbringing has been surrounded by St. Louis City policemen, and that's the only family I knew growing up. And so this is really personal to me that we give those tools back and make St. Louis and the region, by the way, the great community we know it can be, so we can continue our economic development efforts. We want St. Louis and the entire region to thrive. It's important for the rest of the state, and we know the ripple effect will really make that happen. So enough from me. Before we sign the bill, just if you could hear from a few of our bill sponsors and then our Attorney General last before we sign. I'd like to turn it over to Representative Brad Christ and once again thank him for his leadership in working with the Senate, with the House, with the Speaker and the Floor Leader Alex Riley. Mr. Speaker, thank you for making this a priority, and your members as well. With that, we'll turn it over to Representative Brad Christ.
Thank you for attending, and I will keep it brief. Very thrilled, obviously, for today, not for me and our bill, but the reason I filed this 2.5 years ago, which is for my hometown and my brothers and sisters in blue that stand behind me today. I have so many attachments to my hometown, St. Louis, from growing up there, running paper stands with my brother in South City before we could get our workers permit, going to high school there, working there, raising my family there. and my favorite accomplishment, proposing to my beautiful wife, who's actually here today under the Gateway Arch. So, like Governor Kehoe, I have significant attachments to that hometown, and I'm very proud of this bill. And I want every family to have the experiences I had and to feel safe, and unfortunately right now they do not. But today I'm very proud to say that the days of defunding the police and decimating our cities are no more. And today is the first step, and it's not the silver bullet. We have many challenges ahead. I look forward to working with city leaders and Democratic leaders all over the state to continue this progress. But I truly believe it's the beginning of the ascent of St. Louis and what it was and what it can become. Just a quick second of gratitude before I hand it off. I want to thank my Lord, my family, the leaders in this room, starting with Governor Kehoe. The day he was elected, I knew this would be a priority. He's a man of his word. He's stuck to it, and you're going to see that today when he puts the ink on the paper. Speaker John Patterson from the other side of the state, he's been with me from the beginning. Senate leadership, my colleagues in the House, many of who are here today. I truly believe when this is all said and done, that General Assembly picture on the wall over there will be one of the best in history. And lastly, who I'll hand this off to, well, I do want to thank the Democratic Party. We had some very uncomfortable conversations over the last 2.5 years that were not fun. But I think we got this bill to a really good spot that's bipartisan and will help this whole region, this whole state. And lastly, I want to hand it off to Senator Schroer and Senator Fitzwater. As a lowly House rep, you don't get to pick and choose what happens over in the Senate and who's going to handle your bill and who's going to sponsor your legislation. But if I had to choose, it would have been these two men. They're men of honor and integrity, and I'll never forget running this bill with them. That being said, I'll hand it over to Senator Schroer.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming today, and what a phenomenal way to start off our 2025 legislative session. As Governor Kehoe said, it's kind of unprecedented to have something this large come through the legislature without burning the place down, without moving previous questions. And I think it's all because of the governor's leadership, the leadership in the House, the leadership. I saw Tony Lutkemeyer walking in. He's probably behind me. Yeah, he's always behind me. So I want to thank the leadership, actual leadership that we have to unite the Republican Party. This is because we are united on many fronts. And I remember when Governor Kehoe won the primary, and I sat down with him. He grew up in Baden. I grew up in, that's correct. Okay, he'll yell at me. And I grew up in Ferguson, Missouri. And, you know, we'll have a lot of the same memories, a lot of the same places that are now being eroded by crime and decimated by crime. So when I sat down with him, I made sure that his number one priority and my number one priority would get done this year. There was a promise that we made coming into this year to voters that we would make Missouri safe again by making St. Louis safe again. And today with the signing of this bill, we're going to make true on that promise. And like Brad said, this is a start. This is a step in the right direction, a leap in the right direction, but there's so much more that we have to do to rebuild this community and rebuild our state, because with St. Louis, so goes the state of Missouri. The people that I want to thank, we've got Donnie and Jay here. And I remember when I left the House, I've had this for several years in the House, chipping away at this bill that is being signed into law today. I met with them saying, all right, who do we have to take the spot in the House? If I'm going to carry this in the Senate, and Senator Fitzwater led the committee, the Public Safety Committee, in a phenomenal manner, who's going to take it up in the House? And I saw this name, Christ. Well, it's Brad Christ. Got to know him, got to meet him, and he does walk on water because he was able to get this thing out of the House year after year. And his efforts, again, no better person in the House to get this thing done and orchestrate these deals with the Republicans, the Democrats, the moderates, and same goes for Travis. And in the Senate, when I was holding the floor, we had Tony, Travis, Cindy, and many others working on deals and getting the Democrats to the table so we could have a bipartisan bill that's going to impact the entire state as a whole. But there's a heck of a lot of work left to do. I want to remind my colleagues, let's keep this momentum. Let's stay united and be professional in how we disagree, and have another final product like this when it comes to school choice, when it comes to taxation, when it comes to regulatory reform. But again, this is a step in the right direction because of the leadership of Governor Kehoe, the men and women behind us, and even the police spouses. The police spouses are it's our secret weapon that we have. We've unleashed them a couple times, but praying that your loved one comes back, going into the city that's got number one for homicides per capita, it's a lot. And knowing that they have our backs just as we have theirs, it's phenomenal. There's no other group that I would have behind me. But I'm going to hand this over to a guy who's been a great tag team partner in making Missouri safe, Travis Fitzwater.
Thanks, Senator. I think thank you, Governor. What an incredible honor just to be in this room together with this team. It took everybody here to get this done. It has always been the fact that St. Louis City is a gem, a once great city that has almost a 10% loss in population just since the last census. Businesses fleeing the city. This is good for nobody. The state relies on the region of St. Louis. It's half of our state's economy, and this has always been my message as we work through this together, and I was asked to be a part of this team effort, was to fight for the city and the region itself. Senator Shore and I represent part of the St. Louis region and St. Charles, and we love the growth that's happening there. The loss of population and businesses in St. Louis City is not sustainable. It's not for our state, it's not for our economy, it's not for her people. And so this was the priority all along for me, alongside of my colleagues here. That is the message that I think everyone needs to hear. It's the one I know that Governor Kehoe, you don't need any other data other than to see the people that are fleeing the city. That has to stop. That's the data point that matters to our state and to our economy going forward. And so I'm thrilled to be a part of this. And I wouldn't be remiss not to mention how hard it is just to get anything done here. But the effort behind the scenes, the monumental effort it takes from every person in this room to sit down and have hard conversations, be honest, forthcoming, and say no sometimes, but also say yes at times. And I will say, too, behind the scenes, I don't know that anybody carried more weight without getting more credit or enough credit as Tony Lutkemeyer, who sat next to us battling out those yeses and nos with such boldness and courage that it got this to where it is today as a result of his efforts. And that means a ton. This just doesn't happen without Tony. So thankful for that, too. And Governor Kehoe, your relationships make this world go around, this building go around. You've always known that. I'm honored to stand here next to you as you get this accomplished as a priority, and I appreciate your friendship. I've got to introduce our next speaker, Attorney General Bailey, who's one of my probably most known constituents, but really proud of his work and look forward to his work going forward.
Thank you, Senator. I want to thank the members of the General Assembly for making this day a possibility. And it was their hard work, their dedication, their unity, and the countless hours they put in crafting this legislation that bring us here today. I want to thank the governor for his leadership, for making this a priority, and demonstrating to the General Assembly that both branches of government, the executive and the legislative branch, can stand in unity and emphasize the importance that the criminal justice system plays in our society, and that we will always defend the brave men and women in the law enforcement community. And finally, I want to thank the men and women from law enforcement that are here with us today for the work that they do, not only in this building to make this bill a reality, but to put on a uniform every day and take to the streets, not knowing if they're going to come home at the end of their shift, putting their lives on the line to keep our community safe. Governor, thank you for your leadership. I'm excited to welcome the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department as our new clients for the law firm for the state of Missouri to offer civil defense for the police officers. And my commitment to you is we will offer, you can count on us for consistent, quality, competent representation. Thank you so much.
We're going to get to the bill signing. Just a couple more thank yous. I wanted to make sure people, I said this in my comments, there's 25 provisions of this bill. A lot of people are talking about one.